Hey there, it's CJ Willie and I'm cracking a pack. Today is pack number 3 in the Magic the Gathering Amonkhet Bundle Bingo. Check out my preview video for the explanation on how this Amonkhet Bundle Bingo will work. I've added a link to the preview video in the description below. So as a reminder, here is my bingo card. 2 packs in and still no bingo. Hopefully I'll get bingo on one of these squares and then I can mark off the free square, because everyone deserves a free square. So as I crack this pack, my observations are going to be from a casual Magic the Gathering viewpoint, kitchen table magic, or casual magic with the small play group. So I think that's kind of a unique way to look at the cards. After I open the pack, I'm going to choose the best card out of the pack, or what my favorite card out of the pack was. Maybe you'll agree, maybe you won't, but at least it'll be fun. So let's get to cracking the pack. So here we are on pack number 3 in our Amonkhet Bundle Bingo. Hey. First card is Rhett, Krupp, Spearmaster. 3 mana, 2 and a white, human warrior. It's a 3/1. You may exert Rhett, Krupp, Spearmaster as it attacks. When you do, it gets +1/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn. In Amonkhet and even Hour of Devastation, red-white was a pretty aggro format, and Rhett, Krupp, Spearmaster, played a role in that. Basically, you'd exert it. It's a 4/1 with first strike. Pretty hard to kill unless you give it a -1/-1 counter. It was turn 1, exert a creature, play an exert creature. Turn 3, attack with an exert creature, play another creature. Turn 4, exert that creature. So it was like every other turn you're exerting and playing a creature, and so it was a pretty quick format. I did like Rhett, Krupp, Spearmaster. Hated playing against it. Next card is 2 mana, Speaker of Insight, 1 and a blue, Human Wizard. It's a 1/3. You can tap it to draw a card, then discard a card. Activate this ability only if you've cast a non-creature spell this turn. I had a lot of fun with this card. I don't really feature it in any current decks, but back in the limited format, it was pretty fun to do. If you could combo it with non-creature spells, you're able to loot a little bit, dig to what you needed. All right, next we have Fling. So kind of a good oldie, reprinted here in Amonkhet. 2 mana, 1 and a red, instant. As an additional cost to cast Fling, sacrifice a creature. Fling deals damage equal to the sacrificed creature's power to target creature or player. I like this card. I actually feature a play set of it in a deck that I play with Lumberknot, Hornet's Nest, Undying Creatures, kind of a Dark Ascension sort of theme deck where my creatures are dying. I use Blasphemous Act to clear the board. Usually I have a Lumberknot out there with Hexproof. I'll protect it with a Totem Armor or something like that. I'll fling a bunch of creatures, or I'll Blasphemous Act, and then my Lumberknot gets huge, and I usually have a Fling sitting in my hand, and I'll fling, a 10/10 Lumberknot and end the game with it. I like Fling. It's a pretty good card. Next we have Anointer Priest, 1 and a white. Human Cleric, it's a 1/3. Whenever a creature token enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. It also has Embalm, so for 3 and a white, you can exile it from your graveyard and put a token out that's a copy of it. Anointer Priest did some work. There's a couple of white decks that I played right out of Amonkhet where I'd play Anointer Priest. I'd have a bunch of tokens, kind of around the Embalm mechanic, and I was able to do some shenanigans with it, mainly keep my life up and then dirtle around and eventually kill them with flyers or something like that. Shed Weakness, so a single green instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. You may remove a -1/-1 counter from it. So with all the -1/-1 counters running around on the block, especially playing a green creature, or I kind of featured in a Golgari deck with green and black, where my creature would enter the battlefield, I'd have to put a -1/-1 counter on another creature. I'd go into combat, do some block, play this, remove my counter, pump my person. So in a way, in Amonkhet, it was kind of like a giant growth. It was a fun combat trick. Doom Dissenter, 1 and a black, creature human. When Doom, it's a 1/1. When Doom Dissenter dies, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So I did feature this in a playset of this in a deck I was playing that had what was creature out of Corset 2019. I think it was Demon of Catastrophe. So it was built around kind of a sacrifice theme where I would have these creatures early on. I'd sacrifice them to some mechanic or something I had. I'd get a 2/2 zombie out of it. Or, you know, early I'd play them, they'd block, they'd die, I'd get a zombie out of it. I like Doom Dissenter. It was a good card. Great common. Unwavering Initiate, 3 mana, Human Warrior. It's a 3/2 with Vigilance. You can embalm it for 5, so 4 and a white. This card was okay. I mean, it was kind of vanilla test. I mean, it did have Vigilance, which was nice. In an aggro deck, you could pump it with, you know, different spells. If it died, you'd bring it back from the graveyard. It was, you know, it was a middling level card. Trespasser's Curse, 2 mana, 1 and a black, enchantment aura, or a curse. Enchant player. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under enchanted player's control, that player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. I tried this card out in a couple of different decks. Mainly, I found it was going to be more of a sideboard card. If I knew I was playing, you know, one of my play group friends, and they were going to go wide really quick, you know, it worked out. More often than not, it just didn't work. So in our play group, we don't use a lot of sideboards. I haven't really used this card too much. Final Reward, 5 mana, 4 and a black, instant, exile target creature. I liked this card quite a bit during the Amonkhet era, simply because you had to deal with the gods, like the 5 gods in Amonkhet. Didn't work so well, if I remember correctly, with the 3 gods in Hour of Devastation, because they just return to your hand. But exiling like Ronus or Bantu or a Ketra with this card was pretty nice. And if you you know, got a troublesome creature, it wasn't bad. Holding up 5 mana was a little bit rough though. Winds of Rebuke, 2 mana, 1 and a blue, instant, return target non-land permanent to his owner's hand. Each player puts the top 2 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Being a blue player, you know, and liking Mill, this was kind of a, you know, a fun card. I mean, you only got 2 cards out of it, but returning a non-land permanent wasn't that bad. I think it's Disperse, that you can return a target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. This one had a little extra ability tacked onto it, so I found it to be an okay card. Our first uncommon is Flameblade Adept, 1 red. It's a Jackal Warrior. It's a 1/2. Has a menace. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, Flameblade Adept gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Yeah, this card did some work in aggro decks. You'd play it on turn 1. Turn 2, you could attack with a 1/2. Usually it would survive that combat. If you're able to cycle or discard a card later on, it was a 2/2. Here's the drawback. In aggro decks, red and white, you really weren't looking to cycle cards per se. You're looking to hold on to those cards and use them as combat tricks. So this is a little bit where I think Flameblade Adept fell off for me. Because, yeah, it had menace, but the best it was going to be, unless you're cycling multiple cards, was a 3/2 or a 4/2. 2 blockers are going to take it out. It might take out the 2 blockers, it might not. But, you know, in a red-white or aggro-red strategy, you were just looking to play, you know, combat tricks instead of, you know, cycling cards. Vizier Deferment, 3 mana, 2 and a white. Creature is a human cleric. It's a 2/2 with flash. When Vizier of Deferment enters the battlefield, you may exile target creature if it attacked or blocked this turn. Return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. I really thought that this card was going to do something. The best it ended up doing was maybe as a defensive trick. You'd block with a creature that you knew was going to die. You'd flash this in. Your creature would leave the battlefield and come back and it was saved. It didn't work out as much as I wanted. It didn't work out in white and red. Blue-white, I just never really got a good feel out of it. Didn't work in white-green either. I mean, the best was probably white-black, where you're going to stall out just a little bit longer in the game. But it was an uncommon that I just didn't seem to work so well for me. Okay, final uncommon, Angler Drake, 6 mana, 4 and 2 blue. It's a Drake. It's a 4/4 flyer. When Angler Drake enters the battlefield, you may return target creature to its owner's hand. So I played Angler Drake quite a bit, being a blue-white flyers guy. I liked him coming down on turn 6, return maybe one of their bombs to their hand, or return something that was annoying me, give me kind of a turn to reset. It was a 4/4 flyer. Flyers didn't get too huge in Amonkhet or Hour of Devastation, so if it stayed on the board, it was usually something that I could pull the victory out. I did combo it in a blue-green deck where I was using Bounty of the Luxor, so that enchantment where I'd either draw a card at the beginning of my upset step or add 3 mana to my mana pool. I played that deck for a while. It was fun, but eventually I just kind of got tired of it. So Angler Drake wasn't that bad of an uncommon. So rare or mythic rare? Am I going to be able to mark off one of these spots? I didn't get one of the 2 bomb commons, so hopefully this is the pack where I get to check off 2 bingo squares. And here we go. Nope, still won't be doing it. Rags to Riches. So it's one of the Aftermath cards. Rags is 4 mana, 2 generic, 2 black, sorcery. All creatures get -2 until end of turn. And then Riches is 7 mana, 5 and 2 blue. You can cast it from your graveyard. Each opponent chooses a creature he or she controls. You gain control of those creatures. I'm a big no on this one. I get that these are 2 cards in 1, so they have to be a little overcosted. There are plenty of cards out there that will give -2 to all creatures, and usually they cost 3 mana, and they'll come with another clause like if those creatures die, exile them instead. And the sorcery part for 7 mana to gain control of something that my opponent chooses, I don't get to choose, they get to choose. Strictly way worse control magic. And usually at uncommon you can get this effect for 6 mana. At rare you can get it for 5 mana. I get that they're trying to staple 2 cards onto one. No, completely out on Rags to Riches. Did not like it. I know that one of my friends had it in a draft deck. It was just awful. I think when he cast the second side of it, I chose one of my little, I think I gave him my 1/1 embalmed lifelink cat. Can't remember the name of it. Sacred Cat. And I'm like, yeah, here, you can have this 1/1. And the next turn or after that, I beat him. So no, I'm out on that card. And then we've got a mountain, and then we get a look at what the token looks like. So there's an Unwavering Initiate. If we cast him from the graveyard, if we embalm him from the graveyard, then we'd have this nifty token to put out onto the battlefield. Favorite card out of the pack for me, or what I think was the best card out of the pack, I'm going to have to go with Doom Dissenter. It was, at first it looked like kind of an annoying little common, but even in the Amonkhet Hour of Devastation block, the guy did some work. I mean, he would block, he would die, you get a 2/2 zombie, you could sacrifice him to one of your cool sacrifice effects, and you get a 2/2 zombie out of it. There's a lot of times I'd play him, I'd attack with 1 mana, with him, and I'd get 2 or 3 rounds of just pinging until I needed to kill him off for whatever other purposes. So Doom Dissenter was what I think the best card or favorite card out of the pack. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did like it, please subscribe and share. Take some time to tell me in the comment section what was your favorite or best card out of the pack. Until next time, when I'm back to crack pack number 4 of my Magic the Gathering Amonkhet Bundle Bingo.